Oh, you're white. Okay, great. Okay. Well, how about that film, everyone? Wasn't it outstanding? We're going to do a quick Q&A with them. I'm Eric Seiler. I'm from the Cleveland State Film School, and you recognize Chris here. And this is Mary Beth Minnis. She's one of the executive producers of the film. And in the audience, we have 2 Red Coat volunteers. If you raise your hands, right there on each side, if you come up to them, you can ask questions. But I'm going to start off the Q&A by asking each one of them a brief question. But if you want to ask a question, just line up by the red coat. So I'll start off with Mary Beth Minnis. She's the executive producer of the film. Can you just tell us briefly how you became connected with this project?
Sure. Well, we are so thrilled to be here with you guys. And the way I got involved was a woman named Erin Bernhardt. She had the vision to tell this story, and she was a graduate of the University of Virginia. And I don't know if you guys are aware, but there were riots there. And in response to that, she wanted to tell a positive story, and thus began the journey of making Refuge.
And Chris, this is Chris, his wife Melissa, and the 2 children. Very brave, very bold to come out and to leave your former life. Can you tell us about, what led you to actually not only leave your former life, but also have it put on film?
So I'm not the only one that's went through what I've went through. There's a lot of people out there that are experiencing the things that I experienced in my childhood, that I experienced growing up. There's guys out here and girls out here in this audience that they're maybe thinking about joining the military. They might get, exposed to some things that are traumatic. Not one thing led me to extremism. It was a multitude of things. And I figured if I could lead by example and put the story on film to where people could watch it and engage with it and be here afterwards to talk to people, maybe I could prevent the next me from even existing. Because it's always better to prevent than to intervene.
Did you receive any backlash from your former people that you were associated with?
I mean, not really. There's still the occasional email or Twitter post where people just hide behind a keyboard, but we could see each other, I'm not worried about that. So I'm not here to talk about them. I'm here to talk about this story and the film. I don't want to give them a platform,
Great. And Melissa, what is just your response to all of this that you've gone through? Not only you have a husband, you have children, you have 2 children, and you had to go through this, life. What is your response now? What is your reaction now to how everything has transpired?
I couldn't be more thankful. Whenever I went into this, I didn't have the slightest idea that it would even work. I've always been told you can't win the lottery if you don't try. And I just thought that I would give it a shot and, didn't think that I would get a response back. But I had to realize that, I'm not the only one, so maybe somebody else is reach out. And now that I look back on it, I literally call Arno the guardian angel, because he was there and he helped do what I knew I couldn't do on my own. And I'm just forever grateful that the person that I fell in love with has come back out.
Wonderful. And your 2 children, introduce us to your 2 children. They could say their names and your ages.
CJ.
What's your full name?
How old are you, CJ?
Christopher James Buckley, James Jr.
And how old are you, Christopher?
10.
10, great.
My name is Maradon Buckley. 7.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Oh, questions from the audience. Do we have anyone lined up to ask questions at all? Just come up to the microphone, to the red coats that are there if you have a question. Any questions? No one has questions. I can't believe it.
Just raise your hand if you
Just
have
raise
a
your
question.
hand. Okay. Over here, the gentleman with the white on.
How hard was it for you to overcome your hatred of Muslim people?
Man, I had to unlearn everything. I had to I had to realize, like I said, that I experienced a very small portion of what Islam was, and that was the extremist Islam, right? Just like people experience racism and prejudice, but that's a very small portion of what white people are, right? Muslim extremists are a very small portion of what Islam is. So once I had learned how to overcome the fear of exposing myself to what I didn't understand and making the conscious effort to understand it, it all just kind of fell in place, man. Like Haval says, it's hard to hate something you know. And now that I know, it's a little bit easier to push forward and to bridge that gap and to try to make that gap bridge between all of us as Americans.
Great, thank you. We have another question over here.
So for me, I personally grew up in a really diverse community, and seeing the difference between where you guys lived and the community of Clarkston, what was the biggest eye-opening moment or the biggest thing difference that you saw when you went to Clarkston?
I mean, obviously the diversity, just the congestion. Like I grew up here in Cleveland, right? And
Okay. Where are you from and where at?
so I grew up over on West 43rd and Sackett, okay? And I went to school at Walton Elementary. I went to school at Thomas Jefferson. I went to school at Henry W. Longfellow. Went to school at FDR. So I don't know if any of them schools are here today, but you know. But when I moved to the south part of the state, down a little town called Ray, Ohio, it's in Vinton County, I noticed there wasn't no diversity anymore. It was everybody looked like me. And when there was diversity, it was run out, it was bigoted against, and it was pushed out of the community. So to go back to Clarkston and see that amount of diversity it created a hope to see, you know, like Haval said, like there's every religion, every nationality, every race, and there's no wars, there's no, it actually has the lowest crime rate in the entire state of Georgia. And it served as a model to overcome and to just push through our differences and come together and just see what we can achieve when we come together. So.
Okay, great, thank you. And we have a question over here.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, so like when you were switching your life around, like what was the main like reason, like was there any time that you wanted to give up, like from like diverting your life? Like was there any time like?
Sure, right after her.
Every day, man. Every day was just harder than the day before. But I had to want to change as much as I wanted to give up. I had to want to change more. I had to put myself in a position to see what was important. And looking back on it, every generation prior to mine, there's been a player or two that have tried to bridge the divide and bring people together. But there hasn't ever really been a generation that's like focused on it. And I just refuse to leave racism, extremism, and hate to the next generation. It was done to us, and I'm not going to do it to you guys, and I'm not going to do it to them. At least we'll give them a blueprint. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think the biggest challenge to overcome was addiction, right? It's a physical dependency on a substance. And once I was able to kind of create a sober mind, it's really easy to have a sober heart. There's a lot of times there's dual diagnosis, dual situations that cause a person to be involved in extremism. We call it a drug of choice, right? Some people use weed, some people use harder drugs, coke, meth, heroin. Some people just use hate, right? And it's not one thing that leads them to it. It's lifestyle at home. We never know what the guy on the left or the girl on the right or what they're dealing with at home. We don't know what they've been through. Bullying. You know, you pick on somebody enough, you're probably not the only one picking on them. It's a lot easier to join the crowd, make fun of somebody than it is to stand up for that person and risk being picked on yourself, right? I mean, we're all of an age here where I could throw this out there. I was sexually molested by a very close family member. I never talked about it. That was the first time that I ever really experienced hatred, right? I hated the homosexual community. I looked at every single one of them like the one that hurt me. And I figured that they were going to do the same thing to other children if they had the chance. And that went unchecked. I didn't talk to my counselors. I didn't talk to my teacher. I didn't really talk to my parents even. I didn't talk to anybody. I was ashamed of it. I was embarrassed. I felt like, you know, it wasn't supposed to happen. It was my fault. And that hatred is what I was trying to cover up with the drug usage, right? So I hope that helps.
It really does. We appreciate you opening up about your life. I think we have a question over here.
Chris, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. The Haters Anonymous is just amazing, and I'd love to hear more about how you're spreading the word of that. I've been a member of Alcoholics Anonymous for 35 years, and I have to say that my friends in the program have always said, if only the whole world lived by the 12 steps, what a beautiful place. So how are you getting the word out, and is it growing at the same?
So.
Do you see it being an Alcoholics Anonymous someday?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So we took the 12 steps and we completely made it apolitical, a-religious. And one of the things that really harms the 12 traditions and the 12 steps is they're very spiritual, but religious. When we talk about God and turning our will over to the will of God, we're leaving out an entire demographic of people who may not believe in God. So maybe the 12 steps don't work for them, right? So what I wanted to do first was make it all inclusive, because white supremacy is not the only extremism out there, right? You have Islamism, eco-terrorism, Antifa, and the list goes on, okay? So when you focus on one, you leave the rest out. So we focused on the moral cognitive approach of the 12 steps, right? Like taking a list, inventorying yourself, and what we've really found to be helpful is when a person takes them steps to go through the issues, and to be honest, because you can't lie to yourself. You can lie to anybody else, but you know when you're lying. You know what's true and you know what's not, right? So when you're honest with yourself and you work through this program, you find that a lot of the things that you're suffering with and that you're dealing with are overcomable, and you can move past them when you want to. So we've completely completed, like we've finished the TRP, which it's no longer Hate Anonymous anymore because somebody heard us talk about it before we copyrighted it and stole it. And now they have a program name with no program to go with it, but that kind of sucked because it was a good name. Then we positioned to Traumanon because that just sounded good. And same shit happened, right? Same thing. Somebody was like, ooh, Traumanon. So like I go to the website, like we had a reporter call us and was like, hey, are you affiliated with the one in Atlanta, Georgia? Nope. So I called it and I was like, hey, so what do you guys do? Oh, we're a trauma clinician. Okay. We just bought the name. Cool. So we didn't tell anybody. Now it's copyrighted and it's officially called TRP, the Trauma and Recovery Program. And the first program's finished. It's ready to roll out for the United States military. We've also piloted a branch in Aurora, Colorado for police and first responders to help them with some of the trauma that they've overcome and had to deal with in their job every day. As law enforcement, you know, it's a tough job, and we gotta support our police. If not, they're unable to support us.
So you can hear that there's a lot that Chris has put in creating this program, but you asked about getting the word out. And that is a challenge. It takes a lot of energy and press and those kinds of things. So actually everyone here has a voice. Using social media, emailing people, we would love to get the word out more about these programs and about the film. So we would love and welcome you guys to share about what you've experienced here.
Okay, great. We have time for some more questions. Go ahead.
So I have a question for the wife. When your husband decided to be a part of the KKK or whatever, and how hard was it for you to stick by him even though you had mixed members in your family?
That was probably the hardest part of my life I've ever had to go through. It started with the addiction. I knew that whenever I took my vows that I was going to be through sickness and health. Little did I know that the sickness of addiction led to another open door of, in this group, he had all access to every drug known to man, and they was that brotherhood that he had lost after he had gotten out of the military. I didn't know for a while what he had joined. I just knew that he had a group of friends that was like his brothers that he had in the military. So, you know, I was okay with that because that's what I thought was going on. And then he had come to me and he was like, you know, it's not just a brotherhood, it's like a group, is what he was trying to explain to me. And then he told me what it was. And I was like, I have members of my family who is mixed race. You know, my family is not going to be happy. And I lost a lot of my family because of that. I had a lot of people in my family to literally disown me and no longer call, and to this day, don't have anything to do with me. They tell me my kids is, I mean, they're blood. We're blood related. It's my sister. She doesn't call my kids her niece and nephew. She doesn't call me her sister. She's literally erased me from her life. It was very, very hard, but I knew that he was not okay. And everybody else had turned their back on him. And he had nobody. And he was battling this alone. And I knew that as a mom, as a wife, I would want somebody to be there with me if I was having to battle something like this on my own. And I had to be that person for him. I had to be his mom. I had to be his friend. I had to be his wife. And I also had to be the mother to my kids. And I wanted them to know that, you know, this was my way of showing them, you don't give up on somebody. You stand there and hold them up whenever they're falling. And you walk this path, and you battle this path that they're going through with them. So in the end, it was probably the hardest thing that I had to go through, but it was the most fulfilling thing that I've ever had to go through, because I knew that I had to be stronger for them. And I had to be strong for him, because nobody else was, and he wasn't strong enough to hold himself up. So I had to be the one to do it. And now look at him. He's healthy.
Thank you, Melissa. And you would obviously do it again if you had to.
There'd be a lot more strangling going along.
Exactly. All right, next question.
Hi. I know that in like a lot of hate groups, the way they function is that like a lot of them isolate their members from like their family outside of the hate group. Did any of that happen to you?
Opposite. So they tried to be inclusive of the family. They wanted the family to be involved in gatherings and functions. So it was a completely different tactic. I think that's one of the reasons that I never really gravitated towards other hate groups that separate the family. There's all kinds of different tactics and procedures that these guys use to get you involved. So when I first got involved in the group, like, I was just there because I was able to hate gays and Muslims openly, right? Everything else was just kind of like, hey man, let me tell you about the Jews. And I'm like, yeah, cool, but man, the Muslims, right? Like, whatever, right? Like, well, I'm here for something completely different. And the drugs, all the drugs. I did all the drugs. I did all the drugs. But no, so There's a lot of different ways that they separate you from society, from your belief systems, from your families, and just being able to recognize that is key. So kudos for being on top of that. Have you ever thought about a career in like counter-violent extremism?
Not really.
You should.
Okay, great. All right, thanks. And next question. Do we have a question on this side?
We do.
Let's go on this side, and then.
Hi. So I have a friend. He's not here today, but like a month ago, he told me that he finally opened up to me and told me that he was raped when he was younger. And you know, with how certain family members are, they won't let their children get professional help because they don't believe them or care. So what advice can I tell him, or how can I help him overcome his trauma?
I'm thinking back to like what would have helped me. And just be there and be compassionate. He trusted you. And that's a lot, because I never trusted anybody. We had been married for almost 6 years before I even hinted that it had happened to me. So that's somebody that's put a lot into you. Don't violate that trust. But push them to talk to the school, to the counselors, to their teachers. And there's people out here that are there, and their whole goal is to help. And it doesn't matter if anybody in their family believes them or not. It matters that you're able to motivate them to take charge of the situation. Now, see, my problem is that I waited so long to talk about it that they have what they call a statute of limitations. Okay, so the longer this person waits to get help and hold that person that did this to them accountable, the less of a chance that person will ever be held accountable. So I know it's scary, and it's really embarrassing to talk about for this person. So go slow, be gentle, and just constantly reinforce that they need to talk to somebody and tell somebody else, somebody that can help, a teacher, a counselor, another adult that's not directly involved with the family, and get that help they need.
Okay, we only have a couple minutes left, so let's just take two quick questions, this side and this side. Go ahead.
First, I wanted to say thank you so much for sharing your story as a student who has grew up around a diverse community. It was very inspiring to hear this. So my question is, as someone who has parents who have been through addiction, how hard was that healing process of trying to get rid of the hate from your past experiences for yourself and the hate for others after your tour?
Can you repeat the last part?
The last part?
Yeah, just last part.
How hard was it for you to get rid of the hate from your past experiences for yourself and the hate for others after your tour?
It was difficult. I mean, there's a process that goes along with extremism and hate. And so grievances, such as what the young lady just addressed before you, left unresolved, lead to anger. Prolonged anger leads to hatred. And from hatred, it's easy to get involved in a hate group. So as a country, we have decided, within the last 4 years, that we're going to stop identifying with each other based on what we're for. We're going to start identifying by what we're against, right? I'm anti this. I am against that, right? So it's become this whole social movement. And it's very conducive in that kind of environment to polarize and to separate. I mean, look at our political climate, right? I know you guys are in high school. Politics are starting to become a part of your life, and they're important to talk about, but that's another version of extremism that we don't address. It's easy to look at somebody that doesn't agree with your politics and hate them. Look at the news, the media, like everything is designed to divide us. So when you know that, you take away the power of division, right? If I know that you're trying to put a wedge between me and my family or me and my friends, then it's easier to mitigate that. So it was really hard at first because I had to learn that. But once I learned that, it was easy to adjust, and it's become pretty easy to talk about it and spread this message. So.
Great. And our last question?
Did you ever like meet up with your family again, or your parents?
No, right? Still, it's been 10 years now, right? When this was made, it had been at about 6, 7. I did, for the sake of doing it, reach out to my mother, and I will say that on the way home from this trip, I'm gonna drive by and see her, let her see her grandkids, and just kind of try to repair that relationship. But what I want to focus on a little bit more than that is, you know, some of you out there might have parents that are kind of rough, bad shape. It's not their fault. Their parents were screwed up. The parents before them were screwed up. They're just doing what they've been taught, what they've experienced, and what they know. You can break that cycle for your children, but you have to do it consciously. You have to know that this is not how I am as a father or a mother, and make that effort. But it's okay to walk away from toxic people in your life. You can walk away from a mother or a father that are toxic. Don't let them guilt you into being a part of your life and continuing to take advantage and hurt you just because I'm mom. You can't walk away and turn your back on me. Yeah, you can, right? Your healing, your health, your growth is the most important thing. Because when you work on that now and you focus on that now, maybe you won't have to be up on a stage addressing a group of high school students about that in the future, like I am.
Great. And finally, what advice can you give to these students? Students like to have a sense of, well, everyone likes to have a sense of belonging, and they'll have choices, and sometimes the choices may not be belonging to a group that's positive. What advice can you give to them in case they're looking for a sense of belonging to stay with on a positive track?
Man, there's a lot. Don't ever let anybody push you to focus on the bad. Like, be aware of it, but know that there's positive channels to change things. You know, violence never solves anything. Violence leads you to war, and we all know how that turns out. So, opening a dialogue, being able to work and talk about your differences and meet somebody in the middle, understand where they're coming from, and, you know, it's just talk to each other, man. Be nice, be kind to each other. And when you do that, there's always somebody that's willing to be kind to you in return. And usually when you need it the most is when you'll find that. So.
Right.
You want to show? All right. So Myra's going to run around here, and she's going to start handing you guys some of these refugee cards. It's got our social media information on the back, and you guys can post it to your social media and kind of talk about the film and you know, just spread awareness for it. So I'm going to set her down here while Melissa gives you her advice.
I think my biggest thing as a mom, and, you know, seeing what CJ went through as a young child, it was hard for me to send my kid back to school because I did not know how he was going to be treated. And thankfully, you know, he remembers very little of what he went through, but now, like, it is being shown at a lot of schools, and Myra, she's in first grade, and a little girl was like, we seen previews of your movie, and was just like rude and nasty to her. She's not the one to fight with or be mean to, because she is the exact opposite of him. She will choose violence over anything. So don't be mean out there too, because she will cut you down. She responded by, you know, you might have called me ugly in the film, but my heart is bigger than what my appearance will ever be. And that made me respect that a lot more. Him, on the other hand, he's dealt with the bullying, and you never know what a child has been through. And we had a close friend of ours, her son was severely, severely bullied to where he ended up taking his own life. There was nothing ever done.
How old was he when he did it?
He was 14. 14. And he was afraid to go to anybody because he felt like if he did go to somebody, he would be made fun of more for being the snitch. Never be afraid. Never be afraid to step up. If there is something that you're going through, don't be that one that is afraid. Step forward. I stepped forward whenever I was terrified, not knowing what would happen to me and mine, because everybody in my town knew who he was. They was attacking me to get to him. And I had to be the one. I was terrified, but I had to step up and do what I felt was right for me and mine. So you guys always step forward and do what's right for you and yours. Don't be afraid. You have to be the one to speak up.
Well, thank you all very much. Let's give a big thank you to Chris, Melissa, their children, and executive producer Mary Beth. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Hey, wait, real quick, before you guys jump up and leave, like, we're gonna get a picture this way of like everybody. So your faces won't be able to be seen because you're too far away, but it's just a remembrance of like everywhere I go and speak. So I want to remember Cleveland. I grew up here, and this is a special place for me. All right?
CJ, where are you?
1, 2, 3, cheese!
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you so much for attending Refuge at the 46 Cleveland International Film Festival. You should have been given a ballot, a little slip of paper. If you have a ballot, please tear out, just make a little tear indicating what you thought of the movie. It's your chance to evaluate the movie, although I'm pretty sure everybody thought it was excellent. If you don't have a ballot, one of the red coats